Hello, everyone, and welcome to an interesting episode of NASCAR Backmarker Battles. We haven't done one of these in a long, long time, but obviously a situation has happened over the last couple days where I figured it might be back to bring back Backmarker Battles and talk about a very specific topic just one more time. So today we're not gonna be very long, but we're gonna discuss JD Motorsports. Unfortunately, it looks like they are done. Kind of sad to see. Been one of my favorite teams for a long time. And we are going to, like I said, we're going to go through the information that we've been given, and unfortunately, the lack of a future that appears to be for JD Motorsports. As you guys know, I'm actually in Indianapolis right now. I'm at my hotel. That's why you guys don't see my usual setup in my background, and why I might sound a little funny because I don't have a microphone. I'm literally just going off of the microphone that is picked up on my laptop. So hopefully the internet works good. I'm worried it might cut out here. So we're going to try it. But anyway, guys, you guys know the drill. Follow me on social media, Startin Parker on Twitter for all ARCA tweets, news and notes, NASCAR tweets, and all that fun stuff you guys occasionally love to see me do. Super chats are open if you'd like to financially support the show and support this podcast. It'd be much appreciated. And of course, check out the Racing Experts for all NASCAR media related content. So yeah, let's jump right into it, shall we? I don't want to be here too long tonight, but I figured we might as well go over this in general. Johnny Davis Motorsports, which had been in the Xfinity Series. I did not realize it had actually been in the series that long. 1983 is how long the team has been. By my accounts as a young kid, I knew the team. My first incursion of JD Motorsports was 2007 when they had Eric McClure in the Hefty car, the orange Hefty car. That was kind of my first fan iteration of JD Motorsports because, I've always been fascinated with the cars at the back of the field. And while there were no, everyone at the back of the field kind of had black cars, white cars, some of them had blue cars. And then you had that orange car, the Hefty car. You know what I mean? So it's like the orange car, the zero orange car, stuck out so much as a kid that I just couldn't help but, watch it every single time it either popped up on screen or every time I went to a Busch race and boom, I saw that zero Hefty car. It just stuck out like a sore thumb. And, that's kind of what got me fixed on JD Motorsports. And, as a kid, through the late 2000s and early 2010s, obviously we know that Mike Wallace drove for them. That's how I really got more familiar with that team, was Mike Wallace being their full-time driver in the 01. And then their other random start and park entries, the 0, which featured James Hilton's last Xfinity Series attempt in 2011. And yeah, just their other start and parks rides that they would field. I can't remember them all off the top of my head because that was like 13 years ago. But, they've been really picking up steam in the 2010s. Honestly, before Ross Chastain came Landon Castle. Landon Castle, in my personal opinion, really put JD Motorsports on the map in the early 2010s. With taking that car, back when they had switched to the Camaro in 2013, JD Motorsports was still running Impalas and the Zombie Impalas. And Landon Castle was going up there and running top 25, top 20, and he wouldn't get the top 15 finishes, but you would see him sometimes in the top 15. And unshockingly, they signed him full-time. I believe it was full-time in 2014, and he did very, very well for what that car was capable of. Even saw Kevin LePage come back for a couple of Johnny Davis efforts in the 87 and a combo effort with Joe Nemechek's team. He did very well. It always felt like if the team could have gotten sufficient full-season sponsorship, I really do feel like Johnny Davis Motorsports could have been one of the more prominent, Xfinity underdog operations. And obviously the signing of Ross Chastain, you could say really, really, really put that team on the map after Landon Castle. And, up until Ross left the team, he had really, really been giving that car some just ungodly good runs for what the budget really was for that operation. And then, you could say, in my personal opinion, I don't think Johnny Davis Motorsports ever should have went to 4 cars. I think that was a really bad move. I know they were having a lot of success. By 2017, they were up to 3 full-time cars, full race cars, might I add. They introduced the 0 back again in 2015 full-time. So you had, let's see, by the time the end of 2017 you had the 0 of Garrett Smithley. I think, was it Harrison Rhodes? Was he still driving the 01 at the time? You had Chastain in the 4, and then you had the 15 start and park entry, which was driven, I think, primarily by Reed Sorensen. And then in 2018, that's when they started the 15 full race. You had 4 full race cars coming out of JD Motorsports. And, I think they were only running it on like 2 or 3 haulers, maybe not even 3, that just 2 haulers. And it always just felt like, I don't know. It felt like they were doing well, but at the same time, were they spreading themselves too thin? And I always kind of felt like, yes. While the results, in my opinion, were still solid in 2018, and I'd even say 2019, obviously the lack of practice and everything that happened during the COVID season of 2020 affected everybody in the Xfinity series. But for a team like JD Motorsports, I feel like not having that practice every week, getting a feel for their cars, especially on their shoestring budget, you could almost say, I don't want to say that started the downfall. Not financially didn't start the downfall, but maybe in terms of their good runs. I don't know how to put it like that. And then in 2021, a lot of people point to 2021 as kind of the downfall year. I can see where some people would make that argument because Landon Castle returned full-time in the 4 car in 2021. And honestly, I think we can all agree had a very, very bad season. Yeah, losing Flex Seal. That's right. Yeah. When the team lost Flex Seal, you could say the team was not the same. The Flex Seal quartet, you had Flex Seal regular on the 4. You had Flex Seal colors on the 0. You had Flex Seal tape on the 01, and you had Flex Seal liquid on the 15. It was great. The Flex Seal quartet or the Flex Seal trio. It was just one of the most favorite parts of the Xfinity series were those JD Flex Seal cars. But, you look at 2021 and, the 4 of Landon Castle, that didn't go well. I think they were at the 4 and the 6 at that point. It's just, it didn't feel like they were performing very well. Colby Howard, I don't know if he left the team or got let go. I don't quite remember what exactly happened there, but I think he left with a couple races to go. So then after 2021, they made, in my opinion, the good effort to go from 4 cars down to 2 cars. You had Bailey Curry and Ryan Vargas primarily in 2022. And I thought the team did fairly decent. I really thought the team was doing fairly decent in 2022. Bailey was putting up solid runs. Ryan was, keeping the car clean, putting up solid runs too. Then we move into 2023, and it kind of felt like, that in 2023, that's when the wheels, you could say kind of started to fall off. Not trying to be rude, but you could, that's kind of when the wheels kind of started to fall off. Bailey Curry, I'm not sure if he got released or he left. I don't know. I don't remember exactly what happened to that. If anyone could, say in the chat exactly what happened to Bailey. Did he get released or did he just leave the team? Because he was supposed to drive the 4 car once again full time. Brennan Poole, who had some amazing runs with the team at the end of 2022, was signed on to drive the full 4 car. 6 car, I might add, full time in 2023. And he did put up some respectable runs, had that amazing top 5 run at Talladega, put out some solid top 15 finishes at the road courses and top 20 runs. But the 4 car really struggled. We talked about it all on Backmarker Battles last year. So Bailey left after Phoenix, and the 4 car would go on to DNQ 5 races with Garrett Smithley and then 1 with JJ Yeley. So 6 DNQs total for the 4 car in 2023. And even when they made the race, they didn't always have the best runs. I felt like when they had Kyle Weatherman behind the wheel, they could crank out a decent finish. But it just kind of felt like, they were still doing well. The 6 car was doing okay, but the 4 car just wasn't doing, in my opinion, all that well. And one thing I had noticed is that they were down to 1 hauler. JD does have 2 haulers, but they were down to just 1 hauler to transport 2 cars. Now, obviously, with no longer having 2 or 3 practice sessions, it's only a 20-minute practice session. I can see why they would cut it down to 1 hauler in general, because they don't want to haul a backup car. But, usually some teams, if you run 2 cars, more than likely they'll bring 2 haulers just in case they need at least 1 backup car. So, Then it was announced Brennan Poole would be taking whatever sponsorship he had with him over to Alpha Prime Racing, and that Garrett Smithley, he more than likely would be back in some capacity with the operation. But the 4-car, Kyle Weatherman, he would be going to DGM. So then it was announced earlier this year that Dawson Cram would be driving the 4 full time. I don't know if it was ever specifically announced what the 6-car was supposed to be this season. I think, if we remember correctly, I think the 6-car was not originally, I don't know if it was originally supposed to go full time this season. I think the only reason why the 6-car went full time is mainly because we didn't really have any DNQs this season. We haven't had a lot of DNQs at all this season in the Xfinity series outside of a couple of big races. So the 6-car has just been primarily there in general, locked in on speed. And so, Cram, he was in the 4-car. You had Garrett primarily in the 6-car. And the one thing that I really noticed is that Garrett pretty much ran the exact same car every single week. I would say in almost every race he ran this year, he was in the exact same car. It was the wide body with the orange roof. I think outside of the plate tracks and maybe the tracks where he had the trophy tractor car. So he probably only ran like 3 different cars the entire year for all the starts that he made. And it just always felt like they were in conservative mode. It always felt like they were in conservative mode. JD Motorsports, like the 4-car, we would listen to the radio repeatedly. And it's like Dawson just wasn't even allowed to try every week. I'm not sure if you guys heard it too, but, we would listen to Dawson Cram. Yeah, okay. So, people are saying the 4-car was originally supposed to be the only full-time car. And I figured that's what it was supposed to be, but the 6-car kind of just went full-time because of the shorter fields. And they realized, well, we might as well run it if it'll make the show if Garrett can find the money. But it just felt like Dawson wasn't allowed to try. I'd listen to his radios almost every week, and it just felt like that he was just out there making laps. Personally, I don't know if that. I mean, I don't know what that really shows for the team, but it just felt like Dawson was out there to make laps every week. He really couldn't push the car or try at all. And Garrett, he didn't feel like he was trying out there either. It just felt like they were driving the cars for the sake of putting them on the racetrack. I was at Iowa, and honestly, that was probably one of the worst. I don't want to be rude to them, but it just felt like they weren't even trying. They were some of the slowest cars all week. And I feel like Dawson, we've seen Dawson in his truck team, and, when he's gotten a chance in Xfinity cars, he's not bad. He's not slow. When he was in the SS Greenlight car, kid's pretty fast. He's talented. You get Garrett in the right situation. Garrett's been around long enough. I feel like Garrett could also have been pretty fast. It's almost like the signs were there, but nobody quite noticed, And, I feel like, when MBM ran the 6-car as themselves under JD Motorsports at New Hampshire, I feel like the Mac 2004 in the chat says, maybe that was a sign that we should have noticed that something maybe was up. Because JD Motorsports usually would not do something like that, where they would lease out their number to another team. So maybe that should have been a little bit of a wake-up call to see, maybe, something's not exactly right here. But I just chalked it up to, Garrett couldn't find the money for that week. And, and MBM needed to get Armani in the race and didn't trust him to make the race on his own because, he's a rookie. He doesn't have a lot of track time still. So, and then we come to, Chicago and a double DNQ. Ty Dillon in the 4-car, Thomas Annunziata in the 6. And I almost wonder if that was the straw that finally broke the camel's back, because they spent a lot of money to get to Chicago, a lot of money on tires, and even with sponsorship, sometimes the sponsorship still doesn't cover every single part of the bill. And I do wonder if they just ran Pocono with Thomas mainly just as a makeup race. Like, hey, you paid to drive the car. We couldn't get you in the show. Let's run Pocono for you as a makeup race. And Garrett listed that the reason why the 6-car did not show up to Pocono was because of funding. Him and Sarah Handy did put out a statement saying that they could not sell the hood and they could not find the proper sponsorship money to get the 6-car to the track. Then it was announced first by Toby Christie and Joseph Strighley from TobyChristie.com that JD Motorsports had filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy, and I didn't think it was that bad, but a couple of people even on JD's crew had told me that they've been looking for new jobs, and I was kind of confused by that. I'm like, it's in the middle of the season. Why would you be looking for a new job? And then a couple hours later came out the statement about the Chapter 11 bankruptcy. I'm like, oh, okay, that's what they meant. And apparently JD had released a lot of crew members who I hope find work. A lot of good people over there. My good friend Case, who was the crew chief on either the 4 or the 6 car, one of those cars. Case Collenbach, great guy, very knowledgeable. I hope he got it. I think he said he got hired by Alpha Prime. So yeah, awesome to see Case get another job. I hope everybody who got released gets a job, because a lot of good people over at that team. A lot of good people over there. In the bankruptcy filing, it released that JD Motorsports really had racked up a lot of debt. The largest uninsured claims with 20 creditors listed filing from April was about $422,434.17. That is just under $500,000. They broke it down to the notable creditors that were owed. ECR engines, leased engines, came to $50,000, $665.19. G4 South, which is a transmission company, $57,245.34. And Trimax Graphics, which I would believe is a wrapping the people who wrap the car, $32,334.84. The largest debt owed to any creditor on the list was an American Express, which I believe is the credit card company, and the team owed $100,884.42 as of the filing date. And so that is just wow. I knew things were bad. Case hadn't exactly said things were overly great, but I didn't know they were that bad. I didn't know they were that bad, and I was kind of curious on why, why maybe some of the, like, why would graphics be over 30 grand? But then a crew member who I'll keep nameless pointed out something very interesting to me, that with the composite bodies now in the Xfinity series, you can't paint them anymore. So you can't just paint the car white and slap a 6 or a 4 on it. You have to wrap it. So, yeah, with the composite bodies, you can't paint on them before the hexagons and the high traffic areas become covered and NASCAR could confiscate it. So even unsponsored cars, you're stuck with wrapping them now. And that really hurt Johnny because, like I said, what we saw in the past with the steel body cars was a lot of those would be just one base color, which primarily was white. Or back in the early 2010s, it was red or orange. Like they ran just one base color schemes most of the time. And now that they had to wrap the cars, like, I think the most example was Patrick Gallagher. Patrick Gallagher's car this year that we saw at COTA had a 2022 Bailey Curry Alka-Seltzer wrap on it. Still don't even know how they got away with that. But besides the point, you can't do that. You can't just, put the body on and then put the decals on. You have to wrap it. You have to make it look nice. Because one of the rules in NASCAR tech is you have to present a nice looking car, a car that NASCAR deems, looks nice. Because I've seen people present cars in tech before where they get sent away because they're either too dirty or they're too bent up. I've seen that before. And ARCA and truck tech before. So, and then Bob Pockris. Bob Pockris put out a small, but it is the depths also listed up to about 436,000. So we've heard between 422 and 436,000. Either way, on that kind of a budget, which Johnny Davis had been running on, that is an astronomically large number. Large number. So I feel bad for everybody involved. But it also had been kind of a small secret through the garage that Johnny's team had actually been up for sale. See, kind of like if he had found the right buyer, the team would be up for sale. I'm not sure if those talks had ever ended, But I know, again, a crew member who I'll keep nameless had told me that the team was up for sale if JD found the right buyer. And obviously remember JD Motorsports with Gary Keller. Gary Keller also left the operation. We could probably attribute that as well as to a leading downfall. Just you could say a couple of things mixed together: the losing Flex Seal, losing Gary Keller's funding, and just I think falling behind in terms of while the teams were upgrading equipment every year, JD was just kind of, I don't know. I just seen that kind of happen, where some teams, they just kind of keep with the same stuff. And you don't realize it until you're too far behind that you've fallen behind, if that makes sense. So, but the owner points have already been sold. The 45 team, yes, Alpha Prime Racing is bringing back the 45 for Garrett Smithley this weekend at Indianapolis. They have purchased purchased, probably the same thing, the number 4 Xfinity owner points. So those have been transferred, and I do believe Garrett will run quite a few races, not full time. A couple of Alpha Prime crew guys still said it is unclear right now exactly what the plan for the 45 is. But I've heard from at least 3 Alpha Prime guys that right now the 45 will not be full time. It could change, but they said right now the 45 will not be full time. But we'll run quite a few races, they said, because I think they said Garrett will run, obviously, this weekend. Caesar will be in the 45 at Daytona, I believe. And then Annunziata will be in the 45 potentially for a couple of races as well, because he had some other races already sold to JD. So we could see Thomas in the 45 at some point. I'd like to see that because the Annunziata kid is very talented. And you get him in a really good mid-pack team like Alpha Prime, that could be a really good combination right there. That still leaves the number 6 car owner points up for grabs. I wouldn't really say they're highly sought after. They're still ahead of the 35 car and on owners points. So I guess maybe somebody could buy the 6 points. But I don't know. They feel like the points are just kind of too low to really take advantage of. But it does open up the Xfinity Series quite a bit, as now that is 2 full-time cars that we have lost. But like I said, the 45 will take the ranks for quite a few of those races. But it'll be interesting to see what happens now to the Xfinity Series fields. The TV contracts do want 38 cars every week, so we could see the 53 from Joey Gase Racing get rolled out a couple times to fill out the field with another driver. Not a starting park, but just another full race car. Like I said, the APR 45. I would say Mike Harmon, but unfortunately, one of their best cars in their shop got crashed very heavily at Pocono. I'm not even sure when the next time we will see Mike, I should say. We don't, you could say potentially Carl Long, but Carl Long's really at the point now where he's not going to enter for the sake of it. He's just only going to enter if he's got a check. You know what I mean? He's not going to run for the sake of running anymore with how bad last year's seasons went. You never know. I'm sure if there's only 37 cars and they desperately need a 38th car, Carl might run. But, you never know. So, like I said, it's just kind of a sad situation. It really is. But I wanted to talk about it. Yeah, you could probably see the 36 for DGM show up as well. That wouldn't shock me either. But I wanted to bring it up and talk about it. Was going to do it on Monday, but didn't really have time, so was going to wait till I got to the hotel. But just really sad overall. Really sad overall. This is a team that a lot of people had really liked, throughout the years. All the different drivers, all the different sponsors. I mean, it really sucks to see, and it's like, that term end of an era, you can really put it to like this. And I feel like we're seeing an end of an era of the underdogs. Carl Long, he's no longer full-time. He's still in the sport, but he's no longer full-time. Johnny Davis Motorsports, they just shut down. The age of the old school underdogs really is slowly but surely coming to an end in NASCAR. And you have to have high dollars. I mean, you have to have high dollars in the Xfinity Series just to run 28th. I mean, people don't realize just how competitive the mid-pack of the Xfinity Series field is. The age of those underdogs, man, is really going away. It's pretty much gone in the Cup Series now. I mean, Rick Ware is at the point where he has stepped it up as an RFK affiliate operation, so you can't even classify him as an underdog anymore. Pretty much the only underdog cup teams are the only ones. I never said I don't like Chase Elliott. But pretty much the only underdog cup teams are the open cars, like the 44 or like the 44, like the 66. You know, I mean, the 84, that's not a low team. You know, the 50 car, I guess you could classify them as well. But like I said, those guys are all part-time. In the Xfinity series, I mean, you got John, BJ, he's part-time now though too. Jeremy Clements, he's full-time. I guess you can definitely consider him one of the underdogs. Obviously Joey Gase, SS Greenlight Racing. I feel like I'm forgetting some off the top of my head. Obviously Mike Harmon. But yeah, it just kind of feels like, man, that age of the underdogs is coming to an end. Yeah, Young's Motorsports. I don't know. DGM Racing, they are underdogs. You guys gotta put a thing. The difference between an underdog teams, I feel like, are the teams that are just barely scraping by. Alpha Prime Racing, they're in a good spot right now, and I'm happy for Tommy Joe. I freaking love Tommy Joe. He's been one of the nicest guys to me over the last 10 years. I can't really classify Tommy Joe Marnes' team as an underdog. I would just put them right up there in the top 15 to top 25 caliber teams. You could put them right there in the mid-pack. I wouldn't classify them in that underdog class anymore. They have stepped out of it. Big Machine Racing, they're a high-dollar team. They're in no way an underdog team. RSS Racing, they get a lot of 39 at least, gets a lot of SHR Alliance. The other three cars, I think, get a smaller alliance. It's just, oh yeah, so let's see here. DGM Racing, you could say DGM Racing too, but again, they run so good every week. I put them in with Alpha Prime. They're not in that underdog echelon. I really wouldn't say anymore. I really would not say they're in that underdog echelon because they run so good on a weekly basis now. They run so good on a weekly basis. I'm not saying that the underdogs don't exist anymore. They do. They 100% do. But we can agree that they are coming to an end. They are coming to an end. So, either way, it just sucks to see them lose it. Because, like I said, I miss – number one, I never really liked the change to 4 and 6. I always associated JD as the 0, 1, and 0. I wish they would have went back to those numbers. Yeah, the Truck Series definitely still has a bunch, so that's why I didn't even talk about them. Just mainly Xfinity and Cup. And obviously ARCA and Trucks are the place where we really, I feel like, got those scratch and claw back markers every week. And maybe there's a couple in Xfinity I don't remember off the top of my head right now. But like I said, I just wanted to come on here for, what happened to John West Townley. I'd rather not speak of that because it's a story. But anyway, guys, I just wanted to come on here for a couple of minutes, actually almost 30, and talk about this JD Motorsports situation. It's sad, end of an era, and but thanks. All I can say is, guys, I think we can all agree. Thank you, Johnny Davis. Thank you, Johnny Davis, for everything. Thank you, Johnny Davis, for over 40 years of NASCAR ownership. I wish you the best in your future. And I hope that, like I said, I hope everybody on the team finds a job. Lots of great people over there. And I hope all the cars and the equipment goes to a good home, because it's not like they're bad cars. There's not bad equipment. It just needs some upgrades. So like I said, I'm sure all those cars will go to good homes and they will be used. And you got to remember, guys, Morgan Shepherd's last car was ran by JD Motorsports. So I really hope that car gets some love too by another operation. So, and I wonder what is going to happen to JD Motorsports' shop, because he's got a lot of stuff there. Along with all the equipment, he's got a lot of stuff in storage. He's got his own scrapyard behind with all the old chassis that have been destroyed over the years. So, yeah, hopefully everything finds a good place and everyone can just move on from this eventually. So, anyway, guys, Anyway, guys, I'm going to get out of here. Enjoy the rest of Indianapolis weekend. Any of you guys who are coming to Indianapolis, come say hi if you see me. I won't be too hard to find. Just look for the 6'4" molded redhead. But yeah, come say hi to me. I would love to see y'all. And yeah, I think it's going to be a fun weekend in Indianapolis. At IRP on Friday and Indianapolis Saturday and Sunday. So I give you all the goodbye salute, and I will catch you all this Tuesday for the ARCA Racing podcast with our review of IRP and our preview of Salem. So thank you all for watching. See you all again, and I'll see you all real soon. Goodbye.